just while we talk about judicial delegates. So you saw, we emailed out this list to everybody that was picking up petitions for county committee, and you saw these names on your petitions as well. These are the people that coordinated with Dan Campanelli and the ADC and Rep Your Block to run for judicial delegates. And you'll recognize a lot of the names on here. It's a lot of the people in this meeting. The county leaders also filed another slate of judicial delegates to run against these. And I think what's unfortunate about that is you can see how many names are on this list. Now, double that number of names, that's what voters are going to see on the ballot. And it's honestly very confusing. So it's something we have to think about as far as how we explain this to voters, because you can't just at a glance memorize this giant list of names. So I think it's something that we all can be thinking about and strategizing about, and we'll try to put out some messaging to folks before, so if you want to tell voters in your district, in your ED or your neighborhood, these are the judicial delegates that I'm supporting, maybe we can find an easy way to do that.
Tony, can we quickly just explain to people who might not know why it matters?
Yes, and actually, Doug, you probably know better than I do, so would you like to do that? And then I'll hand it over to Diana. I think she wants to say some things on this subject as well.
All right, so just very quickly, so basically, Supreme Court judges are in New York State, which is the trial court level for people that don't know, are nominated through a judicial convention, and it is nominated. The nominations come from judicial delegates, or in the case of a judicial delegate doesn't show up, from alternate judicial delegates. And so, the reason why county is running a slate of people against these delegates are because they want to be able to control the delegates from the 44th, so that when they go to convention, they can ensure that the 44th Assembly District votes in lockstep with the county preferred candidates, as opposed to us going in independent with an open mind and supporting the candidates that we believe to be the best. So it really is it's just a naked power grab to try to wrest control of the judicial selection process from us to ensure pure loyalty to the county leadership. Does that explain it all?
Thanks, Doug. That's a good explanation. Diana, did you have anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, in terms of explaining to voters how they actually vote for this slate, one of the things that's helpful is all these names are going to be blocked together. So it's going to say, choose 14, and there will be 28 names. And I believe we're in the second half on the ballot. And then again, for alternate delegate, it'll say choose 14. So they will all be listed together in a block. Also, if you want to be able to refer anyone to the list, it is on the CBID website. I just put the link in the chat. So you'll be able to find it there. Currently working with Dan Campanelli to see about putting out a mailer or two about this. So that'll hopefully come soon. And if anyone's interested in getting involved with kind of helping make sure that the delegates that actually represent the 44th win this thing, absolutely please be in touch with me, and I will put my email in the chat as well. So yeah, at any point, I'm happy to answer questions, as I'm sure many other people are as well.
Thanks, Diana. Does anybody have any questions for Doug or Diana or me about any of this stuff that we've talked about? I know it's been kind of a lot. Okay. So
I see Cheryl raising her hand the old-fashioned way.
Oh, Cheryl, go ahead.
It's not a question. It's actually just a suggestion as far as unless I'm jumping the discussion, as far as being able to explain to people who we want, how they know which slate to vote for. If you happen to be on that slate, obviously you can just ask them to look for you. But if you're not, the best thing I think is to get the name of the person at the top of the slate, which in our case is Renee Cafiero. Just tell them, look for Renee Cafiero and vote for them. It's, because there's a lot of names there.
That's a really good idea, Cheryl. Thank you for that. And thank you, Diana, for pointing out that it's going to be presented as 2 slates, because
Yeah,
I didn't realize that.
I don't remember who's at the top of the alternate slate. Sorry.
Sharon, you have a question?
Yeah, hi. Are we still, Diana, I don't know, are we still thinking about also printing out like a palm card or something like that we could hand out to our neighbors and friends, but also I don't even know if we could do it at the polling places at a respectful, legal distance from the polling site?
Yeah, the plan is still in the works, so that's definitely on the table.
Okay, great.
And that certainly is legal as long as you're outside the, there's signs posted outside the polling place that say how far you can stand. But as long as you're outside those signs,
Right.
then you are certainly have a right to hand literature in favor of any candidate. Any other questions about the judicial delegates or about the county committee primaries? I've got to say, it was the one silver lining for those who are in a primary is it is kind of fun to see your own name on the ballot. And I think in my election district, when I was in that primary for county committee, I got more votes than Andrew Cuomo did for governor in my election district. So I have some bragging rights. Any other questions or thoughts on this? Okay, the next thing on the agenda that we were going to talk about is redistricting. And for that, I'm going to turn it back over to Diana.
I actually want to see if now that Bobby's on here, if he wants to say hi to us briefly before
I missed that. Yes, we would love to hear from you.
Assembly member, how are you?
Hi, Diana. Thank you so much. And thank you, Tony. Good evening to everyone. I just wanted to say hi. I just got back from Albany. I don't know what you guys are going to say about redistricting. It's terrible in all shapes and fashions, the way we did it this year. We must fix that in the future. But for those who are on our judicial delegate slate, myself included, I think, yes, we definitely need to organize to get some mail and networks of emails and folks on each other's blocks to make sure that folks do know to go out and vote in that race, as well as the contested county committee races. We have a week left in the session in Albany. A bunch of important pieces of legislation around gun control and abortion are going to be passed next week, as well as hopefully a bill of mine, Build Public Renewables. This week, we passed a number of bills that I've been sponsoring for a long time, including the statewide dyslexia task force, an expansion of EPIC, which is a pharmaceutical program for seniors, among many others. And so I'm really excited about, there'll probably be about 8 or 10 bills that I drafted that will get passed this year in both houses, as well as some very important work around gun control, reproductive rights, and then some other very important things around the environment before we leave next week.
Thanks very much. Diana, did you want to take it away about redistricting?
Sure. So this has been something, huh, guys? I'm not gonna go through the full play-by-play of, first there was this and this and this and this. The long and short of it is that the system set up in the New York State Constitution was not great. It was not terribly functional, and this was our first time using it. So when it reached standoff basically between the Democratic and Republican members of the redistricting commission, the legislature took it into their own hands. And that was the point that was the basis of the lawsuit. So we had a lawsuit that overthrew the congressional districts and the Senate districts, but not the assembly districts, because they didn't actually sue about the assembly districts. There was a subsequent lawsuit trying to overthrow the assembly districts. My understanding is the judge ruled against it today, but there's still the possibility of an appeal. This ruling was based on the grounds that it's just too late. The Board of Elections has already printed ballots, and so it would just not really be possible to change the lines at this point. So there is still an open possibility that these lines will be thrown out in 2 years. So for now, the assembly lines are the same ones that we got from the legislature a couple months ago. I'm sure everyone at this point has looked at maps of the new lines, and if not, hopefully somebody can drop that in the chat while I'm talking. And so we had the judge appoint this special master who he put out a draft map, and then the map changed a fair amount from that draft map. So we are in a situation where we really only just saw these lines a couple days ago. And of course, the big news is that Jerry Nadler and Carolyn Maloney decided to run against each other, creating an open seat that almost everyone in this district is in. Now, in terms of county committee, my understanding, which I have gotten from talking to some attorneys on this area, is that we're fine, we're no change, that the election districts will be different in June than they will be in August. So when we run, we will be running the election districts that the Board of Elections created from the original redistricting. And now at this point that they've gotten these new lines, they're going to create a new set of election districts that will go into effect for the August primary. Now, next year we have the city council redistricting, which means then there will be a new set of election districts. So we're going to have 3 sets of election districts in 2 years. But for our purposes, until we have our next county committee elections in 2024, we're going to be going by the election districts that we petitioned in. So just keep in mind when you go to vote in August, your ED number may have changed, and you may so it's a very strange thing. I hope that made sense to everyone. But yeah, I'm happy to take any questions about this.
Thanks, Diana. And I did post in the chat the website Redistricting in You is a good resource. You can type in your address there, and it'll show you the new maps for Congress, or that you can click another button to see the new maps for the state Senate. So that's a quick way to find out your new district. Debbie?
I understand the League of Women Voters were suing to make one election in August. Is that still in play?
That actually also just lost, but they can appeal. So as of now, they have not succeeded in doing so.
And I'm just curious about the funds for all these elections. Where does that come from? And is it an endless bank account?
Well, it comes from the state budget. So I'll let Bobby answer the question about whether that's an endless bank account. This is beyond me.
Amy?
Yeah.
Amy, do you have a question?
Sorry, I was unpacking my suitcase. I just got back from Albany. Of course, it's not an endless budget. Estimates vary of how much these elections cost the state. Anywhere between $30 and $50 million is kind of the number that people usually throw out there. So of course it is a real cost. But to put that in perspective, the state budget is about $220 billion. We should have the elections on the same date. And it's unfortunate that it is not, but that is partially due to the fact of all of these lawsuits that were in some ways hard to stop, and you know, in a lot of ways problematic. And I wish it wasn't the case. I do want to just correct one thing that Diana said. The 44th is half in the new 10th congressional. The other half is still in Yvette Clarke's district. So if you live below Caton Avenue in Kensington, Ditmas Park, Victoria and Flatbush, or Borough Park in the district, you still live in Yvette Clarke's district, most likely.
Thank you for that, Bobby. I apologize.
No, the old one was the original new master version had every single assembly district in it. That's why all of this is so confusing. And could, as Diana said, the assembly district is, there is a good possibility that it could change. And Congress member Hakeem Jeffries has also threatened to bring a voting rights lawsuit against the congressional line. So those could change next year as well.
Yeah, and Ariella is making a good point in the chat that actually the funding responsibility is shared by cities and counties as well. It's not just the state. Yes, and okay, Amy.
Hi, actually I'd like two questions. Why are they redoing the election districts again? From June to August?
So when when the special master made these new lines, he cut them through election districts. So, and the point of an election district is that everyone in that election district isn't all the same districts. So you can't like have an election district that's in, say, like 2 different Senate districts or 2 different congressional districts. So anytime the districts are redrawn, we need new EDs. And again, next year when the city council is redistricted, inevitably election districts will be split and we'll have to redraw them again.
Okay, so it's just because it cut some election districts in half, or like part of in different congressional district?
Right, or Senate district, yeah.
Oh, okay. So that
Yeah.
shouldn't affect that many of them though. Just the
Well,
ones
the
on the
question
border?
is whether they just split it in half or they try to make them evenly sized and then it changes everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was
Did you-
wondering also, like, what candidates do they have to do petitions again because of the redistricting? I don't know if you already discussed
Right,
that.
so the way the Board of Elections structured it is that for any candidate who petitioned for either Senate or Congress, so if you petitioned for Senate, you can just declare what district number you want to run in and you're on the ballot. But if someone wants to change what office they're running for, maybe they were running for Senate, now they want to run for Congress or something like that, then they have to petition on.
Okay. Oh, sorry, just one more. Quick. But how did like the new lieutenant governor get on there? Did he have to do petitioning then, or he still has to? Because they switched them. Yeah.
No, they had to pass a bill in Albany to enable that. That's a whole other process entirely that was specifically designed for him.
Okay, great, thank you.
Yeah. Cheryl?
Yeah, does this mean that the ED that I currently represent will not be my ED by August?
You will technically continue to represent that ED in county committee for the next 2 years, but it will only be an ED for assembly district-based stuff. So, which I don't know how else to explain that.
Okay, can I
but-
try another question then?
Yeah.
Why did the EDs get so much bigger?
That was because of a law that was passed in order to reduce the staffing needs for elections. Because every ED needs to have its own table and the BOE always has a really hard time finding enough poll workers. The idea was to allow the EDs to be a little bigger so that the burden of recruiting poll workers wasn't as extreme.
Okay.
And for that, you can thank Senator Zelnor Myrie.
I have mixed feelings about it.
I know.
Oh, I'm the one who has to collect the signatures.
Right. I also saw a question in the chat about what the deadline is for running in the redistricted seats, and I believe it's June 9th, but don't quote me on that. That's the petitioning deadline. And they did reduce the signature requirement by 15%. So you may see some people out there collecting petitions already.
Yes, it's a very short period. I think that's right. And also, the other thing to be aware of is that people that were already on the ballot for Congress or state Senate didn't have to petition again. But
Right.
people that weren't already running for one of those offices had to really hustle to print those petitions and get out there and collect the signatures in less than 2 weeks, I think.
I think it was supposed to be 3, but nobody's got started on day 1. So
Yeah.
are there any other questions?
Victor asked, changes to polling places, and I don't know the answer to that question.
That's theoretically possible. Yeah.
I wonder, Ariel, do you have any insights on that? Can I call on you?
I always advise to just always check your poll site locator before you vote, because your poll site might have changed for so many different reasons. This area, we've been pretty lucky to have some stability, but things happen at the facilities with, yeah, I'm on the phone. ED, not only the EDs changing and the redistricting, it's just the best practice. Even though you think I'm always at the armory, I'm always at the library, okay, baby, hold on 1 second. It's just best practice to always check.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ariel, for multitasking there.
Yeah, so yeah, it is possible. Amy?
I think Amy's hand was up from before, but
okay.
Joe has a question.
Yeah.
Yeah, this might be a really dumb question, but is there a resource that we could look at, maybe a local newspaper or something, where we could find out at the moment who's running where for what? Because even in 10, I'm not even sure whose hats are in the ring for 10 at this point. And I'm
It's
sure
changing every day, Joe.
that's what I thought. That's why it's a dumb question.
Yeah. And there are a few people who haven't made up their minds and keep thinking the one thing one day and another thing the other day. So, I'm available to share gossip, but I don't want to do it in front of this many people. So, the dust will settle pretty soon. I will tell you that Elizabeth Holtzman has jumped in. She was at a candidates forum tonight. So that's happening. But that's the most recent news that I can publicly share. So yeah, over the next couple of days, we'll have some more answers.
Thanks, Diana. Appreciate that explanation. Any other questions on redistricting before we move on? Okay. And I'm also realizing I've been too casual. I didn't do proper introductions of anybody tonight. But Diana is the treasurer of the 44th ADC and is also the president of CBID. And we're very grateful for her work.
And I will also say CBID is going to do endorsements in this race in June. And we also have a meeting tomorrow if you want to come check that out.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing. And Raul asks in the chat, is Yvette Clark getting a challenge? And I don't know the answer to that, but I think that we'll all, be following this as the dust settles, as Diana said. So the next item on the agenda that we are going to speak about is support for voters and for poll workers in the 2 upcoming primary elections, now that we're going to have them in June and in August. So I wonder if I can call on Courtney for a second just to talk about, I know she was speaking to a couple people about this, and if there's other folks that are interested in getting involved, we would love to get you involved as well. So Courtney Adrian is the vice chair of the 44th ADC.
Hi, everyone. I don't know that I have a lot to say about this besides, wow, so many elections, early voting. We need so many poll workers, and we feel Lori does a great job coordinating these people, but we feel as if part of the role of this group should be to help coordinate and recruit poll workers. So if you are interested in being a poll worker, if you are interested in, in recruiting poll workers, or if you know someone who might be, please reach out, and quick, because we really don't have a lot of time if this June primary happens. And we'll coordinate with Lori. There's a class you have to take in advance also. But I guess also kind of not in emergency situations. Not everyone has actually had to, that I've heard of, but they prefer that you do. So call me, send me a message. I know you all have my email. Okay, bye.
Thanks, Courtney. I will put our ADC email in the chat so people can reach out to that, and then I'll connect you with Courtney and with the district leaders, so we can all work together on helping find poll workers, or if you want to work as well. Debbie, do you have a question?
Oh yeah, just a question about poll workers. Do they have to be 18, and are there any other requirements?
I think they have to be 18 as we registered voters themselves. And is there a rule about what party they have to be affiliated with?
There is some of that.
Yes, some of that.
Like my son is 17 plus and registered, so I didn't know if maybe I could get him to be a poll worker.
Oh, if
You
registered,
can be 17 for line manager. You can be 17.
Oh, thank you. That's great to know.
thanks, Janet.
Mhm.
And Janet, maybe you can speak on this too. I believe that there have to be a certain number of registered Democrats and a certain number of registered Republicans at each poll site. Is that correct?
It has to be even, not a certain number, but wherever it's a Democrat, it should be a Republican, with that Democrat, vice versa.
Right. That's the Constitution.
Mhm.
And if they don't have enough Republicans, as I've heard is often the case, do they ask people to sort of
Yeah,
pretend?
a Democrat might be a Republican on election day,
Yeah.
just for working purpose only.
Yes. It's kind of a silly rule that they put in the Constitution, or when they put it in there, they didn't realize just how democratic some
New York
Brooklyn
is.
areas were going to be. Any other questions on this topic? So I will put the email in the chat, and I encourage you to reach out. I mean, you all have the email. It's the one that I invited you to this meeting with. So please reach out if you're interested in working, or if you know somebody who is, or if you want to get involved in the recruitment process. We would love to plug you in on that. And we will follow up closer to these elections with, just ways to talk to people in your election district and remind them who's on the ballot. Once we know who's on the ballot, this is something as county committee members we really should be doing, because we want Democrats to turn out and vote in the primary and in the next primary and in the general election. So one other subject I wanted to speak about is the ADC itself. We haven't spoken about that yet. I know some of you are new here. This is something that is required by the party rules, but hasn't been observed for most of, as long as most people can remember. ADCs haven't really been a thing in Brooklyn, but a few years ago, myself and a few other people in other districts started organizing to bring these back together. Basically as a way for county committee members to play a more active role in their party, especially now that our role in the party has been cut down to one meeting every 2 years, when it used to be 2 meetings every year. And at those big county committee meetings, folks like us certainly don't get to play a very major role at this point. In most of the meetings I've been to, it's been the party chair and the person they designate to run the meeting pretty much controlling everything and holding all the proxy votes. Although we hope it'll be different in September. But this ADC originally formed back in 2019, just as a way for us to, work on more things more local to our district and try to play a more active role in our party on that level. And per the party rules, the ADC has 4 officers: the chair, the vice chair, the secretary, and the treasurer. Our secretary is currently Francis Sakata. He wasn't able to be here tonight, and he's also not able to continue as secretary. So if there's anybody here who is excited about playing a more active role in this and getting more involved in this group and getting to know everybody more, you would have the opportunity to step into this secretary role. So if you're interested in doing that and taking over for Francis until the next elections, which are going to be in September, that would be a huge help. And you could also just email me at the ADC address. And if you're interested, I'll explain the whole process. Does anybody have questions about what the ADC is or what these ADC officer roles are? Okay. And if you decide, okay, I think that's just some feedback or something. Let me see if I can mute that. Okay. And if you decide that you would like to run for one of these roles, if you want to be the next chair of the 44th ADC or vice chair or treasurer or secretary, they're all going to be up for election in September at our official ADC organizing meeting, which is supposed to happen within a month of the county committee organizing meeting. So we'll keep everybody informed of that. And if you have questions about how to run for one of those offices, also email me about that. So let me put that email address in the chat. And the next item on the agenda, and I'm not going to take too much time on this, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about goals we might have for this year. So if anybody has thoughts on something that we really should be working towards as a party organization, I would love to hear from you about that. For me personally, I think, this is, while it's been a discouraging year on a lot of levels, it's seeing all the, scandals coming out of the party and the Ford signatures objecting to county committee people. And, a lot of things we wish weren't happening. I'm also extremely excited that there are a record number of new people running for district leader seats all over Brooklyn. And, we're fortunate in this district to have district leaders that work collaboratively with us and are interested in reforming the party and will listen to county committee members. But a lot of districts don't have that. So I've been involved in Brooklyn Can't Wait, which is a partnership between a bunch of Democratic clubs that are supporting right now a list of 20 candidates for district leader. And I think if, all or most of these folks manage to get elected this year, it would really be a change, a sea change for our party. And that could happen this June. So it's coming up soon. So I encourage you to check that out at brooklyncan'twait.com. If you're interested. This is not me as, saying this on behalf of the ADC. This is me personally saying what I'm looking forward to. And as county committee members, I think, when we see what happens with the primary in June, then we can start to strategize about, okay, what are we going to do with our power as county committee members in that first meeting? What sort of reforms do we want to look for, and how can we use whatever leverage we have left under the current rules to carve out more participation from our party, so it's just not one person running the whole thing. So those are some goals I have for this year. But I would love to hear yours. And I see Tom just raised his hand. What are your goals for this year? Or did you have a question? Okay. Tom Gilligan, did you raise your hand? Okay, maybe that was an accident. Is there anyone else who has anything that they want to add as far as goals for the ADC this year? And this is kind of just brainstorming.
That was a mistake. Sorry.
No problem.
Okay. Yeah.
No problem. Okay. Well, and I know it's been a long meeting already, so we don't have to get into this now, but I just wanted everybody to start thinking about it. now that we've all, run for county committee and we've gone through the petitioning process, some qualified, some didn't, some will be appointed. We should start thinking about what we are going to do with this office. And I'm very optimistic about, I think that county committee members are going to have more power in the future of the Democratic Party, and that we can work together to, point things in a new direction where, voter turnout won't be quite so low, and folks that want to run for office for the first time won't be discouraged from doing so. That's what I'm really hoping to see, and that's why I've been doing this work for the past few years. So I think that pretty much covers the agenda. And I see that Raul is posting in the chat about the monument to Shirley Chisholm. So thank you for sharing that. And I'm going to put in the chat ad44adc@gmail.com. That's the email address, but you have emails from that address already. So please reach out there if you are interested in volunteering to, help recruit poll workers, if you're interested in running for secretary or, filling that role in the interim, since Francis is unable to do it right now. It's basically just, writing minutes of our meetings and, having a few planning meetings. It's not a huge job. Or if you have other thoughts on what we should be doing, you can always reach out via that email. And I see Amy has a question. How do I see who my county committee reps are? That's a good question. So after the election, we will get the final list of who is elected in each election district, and you'll be able to look there. We could give you the list now, but because of the primaries, there's some spots where we're not sure who the county committee member is going to be at this point. And the Brooklyn Dems used to publish that information on their website, but I think they have stopped doing so. But it is public information. It's available from the Board of Elections. So after the primary, we'll have the list of who's representing each district, and we'll also be coordinating appointments for all the districts that don't have a representative. So somebody can get in there, someone who tried to run for county committee but didn't qualify, will get into those vacant seats. Sharon, do you have a question or a comment?
Yeah, just going back to the poll workers. There's a Facebook group that I'm in that's Park Slope Together. There's a lot of people in there, and I could put something in there about if you want to apply to become a poll worker, here's a link to go to. Does that make sense? And I'm not sure which link I should give them.
That's a great idea.
Give an email address or something.
That is a great idea. So for right now, why don't you give the ADC email address that these are coming from? And I'll check in with Courtney. Maybe we can create a special form or email address just for this purpose. And if so, we'll let you know.
Okay, great. I'll hold off then until I hear from you. Thanks.
Thanks, Sharon. And let's see. Terry just asked in the chat how to get involved more, and it's the same answer. Just respond to any of those emails you got with what you'd want to plug into, and we will plug you in to those. And Ariel posted in the chat that to mention the change to canvas law. If you receive an absentee ballot, you can't vote on a scannable ballot in the poll site, right? That's a very good point. So I think I can explain how that works. So because of law that Assemblymember Carroll sponsored, that is intended to get election results more quickly on election night, so we don't have to wait, days and weeks for those results. There's a change in how absentee ballots are processed. So now if you request an absentee ballot, but then decide to go vote at your local poll site, you have to vote on an affidavit ballot. Your name will not show up normally, or there'll be a mark next to it where you're not allowed to go and vote on the scanner the way you're used to. And anyone who encounters that should not give up and should still vote, but just know that you'll have to vote on an affidavit ballot, and your vote will still be counted. And it's to avoid, any double counting because they have to count the absentee ballots faster. So I hope that makes sense, but that's something, as you're interacting with voters, as we're telling people about the primary in June and the primary in August, if you're saying, oh, go get an absentee ballot, vote by absentee ballot, you also have to add that means you can't go to the polling place. Or if you do go to the polling place, get the affidavit. Does that make sense?
Can I ask a question about that? But you can still bring an absentee ballot to the polling site, correct?
Yes.
Thanks, Ariel.
Yes, you can still drop the absentee ballot off at any early voting site or poll site. It doesn't have to be your poll site. And so basically, long story short is only apply for an absentee if you really want to vote for absentee. I think a lot of us were using it as a stopgap. Like, I didn't know if I was going to be in quarantine. I didn't know where I was going to be. So let me just apply for an absentee, have it. And then I'll decide if I want to vote or not in my poll site. So basically, I think right now only apply for an absentee if you are wanting to vote for an absentee, because it's just cleaner and easier that way.
Thanks very much. So, any other questions? Oh, and Amy's asking, do we know if it's the same early voting sites as last year? So I think Ariel addressed that earlier as well, saying, it's been pretty consistent in our area, but it's always good to go to poll site locator and double check, and that will tell you your early voting location and your poll site location for election day. So I think we are about ready to wrap up. I know some people have been posting in the chat about events that are coming up in the neighborhood, and actually one of our members was just asking if there's any, anything going on this weekend politically. So if anybody has anything quick they want to share, just in a few words, you could do it now. You could post it in the chat or raise your hand. One thing I know that's coming up is Jackie Painter, who's running for district leader in Assembly District 51, is having her canvassing kickoff on Saturday at 11 a.m. in Sunset Park. And I think that's going to be a lot of fun. She's a really exciting candidate running against someone who's had the machines backing for a very long time. So that's one thing that's going on. But
I'm going to jump in.
ahead.
At the CBID meeting tomorrow night on Zoom only, not in person, we're going to have Ana Maria Archila and Diana Reina, and we're going to be voting on a lieutenant governor endorsements. We're also going to be hearing about Assembly District 57 assembly race with Ferris Dufrant Forrest and Olanike Alabi. And we'll be hearing about a lot of other great stuff too. We're going to hear from BK Forge talking about how we can do more about, what's going on with women's rights right now. So definitely come on by. And I did put the link in the chat to register.
Thanks, Diana. Zoe, do you have something?
Hi. So tomorrow, just like every Thursday between 9 a.m. and 10 a.m., if you are around and you want to come to Sip and Play on 5th Avenue between 10th and 11th Streets, we have our weekly Go BK by Day meeting, which stands for Get Organized Brooklyn. And we do a lot of postcard writing for issues and getting out the vote to Dems in many states. We're also writing postcards to a local state Senate candidate. And then if you want to join us and write consistently or even write from home, you can email me and I'll get the process started for you. My email address is Zoe, Z-O-E, at gobkbyday.com.
Thank you, Zoe. Yes, I'm going to make it to one of these days. That really sounds great. Anybody else have anything they want to share before we close out?
It's also via Zoom, so you can join us anytime.
Wait, so it's in person or Zoom? It's
Both.
hybrid?
Both, yes.
Both. Okay, so you can join on Zoom or you can show up in person at Sip and Play.
Right.
Great. Thanks, Zoe. Thanks, Sharon. And thanks, Raul. Talking about Vanderbilt Avenue open streets, which is a beautiful part of what's now our district going up into Prospect Heights. Okay, everybody. Well, I really appreciate you all taking the time to be here with us tonight. Thanks very much to Assemblymember Carroll for stopping by, to our district leader, Doug Schneider. Thank you. To Courtney and Diana, thank you both for all your work. And to all of you, and if you're in a primary, I'm going to say again, don't panic. Just send me an email if there's anything we can do to support, or if you want ideas for how to campaign. But it's not that hard, and I really look forward to working with all of you on the county committee.
Thank you, Tony.
Thanks. Good night. Good night.